higher faith. What happens a lot of times in other religions, let's not talk about Islam for a second. In other religions, when somebody gets into trouble, they grab on an amulet. They grab on a crucifix, or they grab on some kind of a charm, some kind of a thing. And they say, well, this thing protects me. This ring that I'm wearing protects me. This band that I have around my wrist, it protects me. This locket that I have protects me. Or this book that I've put in my dashboard protects me. You understand? Or if I go and I do sprinkle this kind of water on myself, that special water is going to protect me. There's physical things in other religions, physical things that people start attributing, they have supernatural protective powers. And if I have those things, then I'll be protected somehow. Now, some of that made its way into even Muslim thinking. That we started believing in objects that have special powers. Which is why you find people go to Umrah and they go to Hajj and they sneak in a pair of scissors. And when they get to the Kaaba, they'll cut out a little bit of the cloth and bring it home. And every time they get, sinus infection, rub it on their forehead because it's going to get rid of all their problems. Now they're believing that because this cloth was touching the Kaaba, that somehow this cloth has supernatural powers. And it's going to heal them. The thing is, now you're looking at protection from things. And you're starting to lose your connection from the idea that Allah Himself is the one who protects. And sometimes this idea, instead of bringing, and people do this thinking that they're doing something religious, but actually this is taking you away from the religion. This is taking you away from Inna waliyyi Allah. My only protector, the one next to me, is in fact Allah. Then a lot of times people start believing in harm that can come to them from the unseen, and there's an obsessive, compulsive tendency among many Muslims, sometimes educated Muslims, well-learned Muslims, to believe if something is wrong with me, if I lost my job, if I'm going through depression, if I'm having trouble in my marriage, if I got diagnosed with a disease, if this happened, this problem happened, that problem, somebody did magic to me. I need to find out who did magic to me. And if they did magic, I need to find, if they did some spell, I need to go to someone who's going to find me the prescription to undo that spell. And this happens in other religions all the time. But this kind of ignorant thinking has made its way into our religion, where people have started believing that they can go to certain people who will make them prescriptions, literally. Hey, I'm going to write this word on this piece of paper, you fold it up, and you swallow it, don't ask questions, or dip it into your orange juice and then drink it, let the ink go in, and then drink it, and that's it. You will find your lost motorcycle. It's going to come back to you. It's going to drive on its own. It's going to be on your driveway before you know it. My problems are going to be solved. Somebody magically stole my motorcycle, and it's magically going to come back because I'm following this prescription. And what's even crazier is a lot of times the people who make these kinds of prescriptions, they'll put ayat of the Quran. Words from Allah's words. And so the one who doesn't understand the purpose of the Quran thinks, well, it has Quran on it. It must have special powers. It has Allah's name on it. So this must be a good thing. Let me put this, and I've seen this in many people's homes. What we do is, to protect the house or something, on the fridge, you'll have like a piece of paper. It has Alif, Lam, Mim, Hamim, Yasin, Taha, the names of surahs that begin with the letters. There's a little, a chart with all those letters. And what's that there for? So the bananas don't expire quickly, right? So that the food will stay. This is going to make sure that this is preservative for your foods or protection for your house. Who came up with this? Let's take a step back for a moment. And by the way, the counter argument when you question something like that and I'm not saying you go and start these fights at home. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to understand why this is problematic, not because it's ignorant or evil or wrong. I'm saying why is this problematic? It's taking you away from Allah. You're not realizing it's taking you away from Allah. That's the biggest harm. That's the biggest harm of all. The thing is, when you start believing in these kinds of prescriptions, there's a really deep problem in the way you think about your faith and the way you think and I think about Allah. You see, Allah told us, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ. Listen to this carefully now. Allah will never tell you what's happening in the unseen. The world of the unseen. What are angels writing right now over here and over here? How many angels are in the presence of our audience right now? I don't know. When is Judgment Day coming? I don't know. Where are the jinn and what are they doing? I don't know. Allah did not give us access to the unseen. He didn't. He gave that access in a limited way, in what He wanted, to His messengers, alayhimu salatu wassalam. So they would speak on behalf of the unseen. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would sometimes be able to see Angel Jibreel in the sky. Everybody else around him is looking at the same sky, they see nothing. But he can see Angel Jibreel alayhi salam. Because Allah has opened or removed the veil from his eyes so he can see the unseen. Now again, that's the first point I made. That's not my point. My point is building up. The second point I want to make. If you have a bacterial infection, if you have a sinus problem, if you have a stomach issue, if you have a medical issue, and you go to the doctor, and they do a checkup, and they do an x-ray, right? Or they take your temperature. That's not the unseen. They could see the temperature is high. They can see the bacterial infection. They can see things on the CAT scan or the MRI. They can see it. And because they can see it, they can try to give you a diagnosis and a prescription. So here's how you take care of this. This was not a matter of the unseen, this was a matter of the seen. But when you go to somebody and say, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble in, my marriage, or I'm having a lot of trouble with anxiety, I'm having trouble sleeping, or I can't concentrate in my prayer. And they say to you, hold on a second, let me access the unseen. And according to the unseen, if you read this 37 times, and then do the hokey pokey and turn around in 360 degrees a few times, then sit on this couch and then on that couch, and then jump up and down, and do this for 45 days, then you'll be fine. Or some lady goes to people go to these places, I can't have children. Or I only want sons. Another kind of ignorance. I only want sons. How can I make sure I have sons? Okay, I'm going to write something down on this. And he could be writing the alphabet. He could be whatever it may be. And he'll fold it up and put it around your arm. Don't take it off. If you take it off, you won't have a baby. And once you have a baby, never take it off. The moment you take it off, baby's going to die. And you have women whose sons are 30 years old and they're wearing this thing. Muslim. Believing this is somehow protecting their child. Believing these anecdotes are protecting our kids. Or protecting us in some way. And also for you to believe, when people have arguments in their homes, this is the most incredible kinds of ignorance that I don't imagine even the people of shirk in Makkah were this ignorant. And sometimes the kinds of ignorance you hear from Muslims that are supposed to be knowledgeable in their deen, knowledgeable in the word of Allah. They'll say things like, my son, or my daughter, or my whoever, they're not responding to me. Their wife must have done magic on them. She's putting magic in their food. And now they've changed. It may have nothing to do with the fact that you were abusive. It may have nothing to do with the fact that you insulted someone. It must be magic. And now all of a sudden, your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law or your nephew or your niece, they're sorcerers. They're like the Sahara of Fir'aun's time. And you got to stay away from them. If they give you food, it might be poisoned. They may have blown something on it. And then when you eat that food, that's it. You're going to get cancer. This belief that somehow someone else other than you, a human being, has access to the unseen and can cause you harm. They can cause you harm. Is you contradicting the fundamental belief that your protector is Allah. And no one can harm you unless Allah wills that to be the case. And let's even for a moment, even though my khutbah is not about magic, but let's talk about that for just a second. The Arabic word sihr actually has to do with manipulating someone's thoughts. It has nothing to do with someone hovering in the air. It has nothing to do with causing you cancer. Somebody did magic, that's why a truck ran into me. No. Magic has, يُخَيَّلُ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى. Even Quran says it. Quran says when the magicians did magic against Musa alayhi salam, it was made to appear to people. Their thoughts were manipulated. The idea of magic is to actually influence somebody's thoughts. And there is no greater protection for the thought of a human being than the word of Allah. Which is why the word of Allah did not come to be memorized, even though we memorize it. The word of Allah did not come so you take one word from it and you read it 1,000 times. That's not why the word of Allah came. Allah did not say, أَفَلَا تَحْفَظُونَ أَفَلَا تُرَاجِعُونَ. He said, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Why don't you think? Don't you then think? Don't you then think? The word of Allah came so we can think about the word of Allah. But you know what we've done? We've committed this crime. Like other religions may do this with anecdotes and other kinds of trinkets and things. We've done this with Quran, and we've turned the Quran